Hello and welcome back to my stamp studio. So today I come to you with a quickie video on a technique that a lot of you have shown some interest in. So a while back, a customer of mine asked me about what they could do with designer series paper that they had. And so I posted some ideas, just general ideas of some techniques you can use with DSP. One of the techniques I shared was the herringbone technique. And I had so much interest on it. I had lots of people asking me to please do a video on it. And so I decided that I would take an opportunity to do that. And there is no better paper in my mind to do this technique with right now, this time of year, than the Plaid Tidings 6x6 Designer Series paper that's on page 57 of Stampin' Up's Holiday Mini Catalog. I am in love with this paper. Not only does it have the beautiful, rich fall colors, but it also has these beautiful colors of pastels that could be easily used for any occasion. It also has some nice holiday plaids in it as well. So it coordinates with Cherry Cobbler, Melon Mambo, Blackberry Bliss, Shaded Spruce, Pretty Peacock, Bumblebee, and Pumpkin Pie. The paper also coordinates with other colors as well. It's got quite an array that it coordinates with. So I have picked out my favorite sides here of the beautiful, rich fall colors. Okay, and like I said, I have had so much fun creating with these, and there'll be lots of upcoming projects on my Facebook page using this paper. So not only do you get this beautiful side, if I flip it over just real quick, I want you to get just kind of an eye of some of the other colors that you get in this pack of paper. You also have some kind of holiday-ish reds and greens, but you also have nice reds and purples that could easily be used for upcoming Valentine's Day. Wedding cards, that kind of thing too. Another holiday, another pink, some reds and blue plaids that I think would work nicely on a masculine card, along with some of this black and red and gray here too. And then this last little grouping, again, some reds and greens for holidays, and then some of these cute little pinks and purples and plaids in here as well. So I'm just loving the plaids. You get so much color out of this paper. So let me remind you a little bit and show you some samples of the herringbone technique. And I've made all these samples with this paper. So here's one here. Here's one here. And then I'll throw in one more. These all use the herringbone technique. As you see, the paper is staggered point to point here, and every other alternating one here in the corner. And that's what gives it that beautiful herringbone look. Now these cards I've used different sizes of strips, and it all depends on what look you're going for. But this one here on the far left actually uses a very narrow strip of DSP. This measures, and I want to make sure I tell you the exact, it's a 1/4 of an inch strip, okay, on these. And you can see the little bit more detailed or intricate look that you can get with the smaller strips. Then this one here uses 1/2 inch strips right here. I basically just did all those on a sheet and cut it down just a little bit, and had it so that it has a little bit of the Cherry Cobbler red cardstock popping out to make a beautiful fall card. And then this one again on Pretty Peacock here, same thing, 1/2 inch strips of this plaid paper just staggered and altered. Okay. The leaf that I am using on all these cards, I just want to share with you, is from this Love of Leaves stamp set. This was one of my Class to Go card kits last month. Very popular. Am loving all these leaves. The dies cut out and have this beautiful little stitched look and veining up all the leaves, and it's just such a unique little look. So for those of you who picked up that bundle, this is a great way to use it as well. And then I started playing around with some wider strips. So these two cards use some strips that measure here, 3/4 inch strip, and then this one here are full 1 inch strips on this. So you see how you get quite a different look with that than you do using the 1/4 inch little more narrow strips here. Okay, so it all depends. I like them all. There isn't one I like better than the other. It just kind of provides a little bit different look for you. All right, so let me get to it here and show you how we do this. I'm going to start out with a piece of very vanilla cardstock here. And because I'm going to be using lots of adhesive for this, I meant to grab my silicone mat. And so I'm going to grab one of those real quick and throw in here underneath my project. It just helps prevent any sticky or adhesive getting onto my work surface. Then I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal Plus. You know that Stampin' Up! Has 2 adhesives, Stampin' Seal Plus and then the Stampin' Seal. The Stampin' Seal Plus is just a little bit stronger, and I think for this project, the more strength in your adhesive that you have, the better, okay? So I'm basically going to take my adhesive and I'm just going to run long strips all the way from top to bottom along my cardstock. And sometimes my Stampin' Seal gets a little hooked up, so I just take my finger and just kind of get it started again. But notice anything that goes off the edge is going onto my silicone mat and not onto my work surface. Okay, I'm getting those strips fairly close together, and I am making sure that they are going from the edge of the top of the paper to the edge of the bottom of the paper. The corners are very important with this technique, so you do want to make sure that you get nice adhesive coverage up into the corners. And if you have to go back and add a little bit more, you can, okay? All right, now for this project today, I am going to be using the 1/2 inch strips of DSP, okay? And I just basically have 4 different patterns here that I'm going to be using. The first strip I'm going to start with is this yellow strip here. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to place it, basically I'm eyeing this corner and this corner. And I'm going to place it on one side here and up here kind of on, I want it up just a little bit more. There we go. Up here to this corner, okay? I have that corner of that DSP, the corner of that DSP, but basically I am doing a cross piece here, this corner up here and this corner down here. Then I'm going to grab my next piece and I'm going to place one using this as kind of my guide here a little bit. I'm going to be just to the side of that, but I'm going to butt up the end of it to that first piece that I just laid down. Okay, just like that. My next piece I'm going to apply is going to be down here. And again, I'm going to use this corner here as my guide a little bit. I'm going to go just to the side of it, but I'm going to butt up my flush ends there to that first middle piece I placed and come that way, like that. Okay? Now, you don't have to, but I like to because I have extra long pieces hanging off here. So at this point, I just go ahead and I trim those off because I'm most likely going to be able to use those here because they're so long, okay? Now these little bit smaller pieces here, I'm probably not going to. Those are going to go into my little scrap pile here, okay? All right, so let's continue to work. The fourth piece of DSP that I have not yet used, I'm going to take and I'm going to do it right up here into the corner of this piece. Okay. I'm making sure that it's all butted up along there and also up into here. Okay. Now this is where I just continue to work with my pieces. I keep just grabbing through in a certain order there so that way there is never a chance of having 2 of the same pieces together. Okay. My next piece will be this one, and this is the one that I actually cut off the first time. So notice that it's perfectly the right length here to be able to use that. The next strip I'm going to use here, I need to kind of look at this because the next strip is going to be this blue one here. So you just kind of keep going in the order. I often will just lay my strips out in a certain order. That way I make sure that I grab them and there's no two ever together the same. I'm going to continue to work here in this corner. The next one I'm going to grab is actually this one here, and I know that if I come in here and cut these off, part of the strips that I just cut off, I have a nice little small piece here. So I can take and give myself a nice straight edge there, and I can use that little small piece then to finish out this section here. Okay, just like that. Okay, so just make sure strips go a little bit farther if you look ahead and kind of trim off extra each time. So I have this, if you want to think of these as quadrants of your card, I have this quadrant done here. I'm going to go ahead and move up here to this one. I've already used the yellow and the blue. I have not used this color yet, so I'm going to go ahead and line that up right up in there in the corner and right along the edge there. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab this one because I have not used this one yet up here in this quadrant. And now I know that I have the yellow, I have the blue, I have these two plaids. I've used all four of them basically in this quadrant. So now I'm going to start over and I'm going to grab my yellow. And notice every other time I'm placing it down, I'm going the opposite direction. And that's what's giving me that cool herringbone effect. The next strip I'm going to grab is this one here. I probably, actually as I look at it, I think I want blue on the end there. So I'm going to use one of my little scrap blue pieces here, trim off and give myself a nice little straight edge, and go ahead and place that blue there. Now I do have a little bit of a triangle corner of that vanilla that's peeking through there. Do not worry about that, okay? We will deal with that at the end. So again, I'm going to go through, I'm going to trim off a lot of my ends here. If you can't see where the edge of your vanilla is, you can always flip your paper over and then you can see exactly where they are there, like that. Okay. Go ahead and move some of my pieces out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and flip my paper around and I'm going to continue to work on my quadrants. I have the third quadrant here left to do yet. And I think I have a yellow piece and I have this kind of orangey purple piece, so I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take one of the pretty peacock pieces here. Come this direction. Go ahead and pull this one. Continue to work through the orders of my papers. Sometimes you have to switch up the order of it a little bit. Go ahead and trim off one of my bumblebee yellow plaid pieces there to make that fit in there. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and do blue again. I know it's kind of out of order, but I don't want another blue piece to be lined up with this piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the blue this way. So you kind of, as you work, you look ahead and make sure that you're not getting any of the same. I like all the pieces to kind of go different directions. It just gives it all a little bit more interest. And then now I'll pull this one in. And then the last one that I need to use here on this is some of this orangey. And I don't, oh, yep, here I have a little small piece of it here. I'm going to go ahead and trim it off. And then that will give me just enough to finish off this quadrant. Right there like that, okay? Now we have one last quadrant to work with here, okay? So let me go ahead and trim my extra off here on this section, just in case I can create any of those little smaller strips that I would be able to use in this next quadrant. rather than using one of my long strips. All right, so I have these two patterns here. So let's go with the blue next. Well, the blue was here, and I don't really like that. I want to change that up a little bit. So I'm going to go with, well, that one is there, isn't it? So you do just, like I said, kind of look at it. I think that this will actually be okay here, like this. Okay. The next one I think I want to use is the blue one. I'm going to go ahead and pull that right in here. And then I think I'm going to throw some yellow in here. I'm going to use one of my scrappy pieces here, trim it off, and I should be able to be long enough to just fit right there. Okay, now I have one more little square there. I think I'm actually going to take this pattern here, trim off the end, and go ahead and place that there. Okay. Again, I'm just going to flip around here, trim off all my extras around the edge. Okay. And I never really found like one size of paper that this worked perfectly on. Every time I did it, I seem to have a little bit of extra Very Vanilla poking through on one or more of the quadrants, okay? So then basically all I did is pulled in my paper trimmer, and I can come and just trim this down to whatever I need, enough just to get that little bit of Very Vanilla off there, okay? Just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that all the way around. This piece of Very Vanilla, I think that I started with for this project, was 4 by 5 1/4. And like I said, I messed around with a paper size, and I couldn't find the right paper size that was just perfect, that I didn't have to do this trimming process. So I think this is just part of the technique. It also allows you to customize a little bit to the size that you want it. So if you wanted to start a little bit bigger, obviously you could always cut it down a little more. So here I basically have my background to my card, and I just think that's stunning. And part of it is this beautiful plaid tidings paper. All right, this would work with any designer series paper too. I hope you give it a chance. A lot of scraps I think that you have laying around would work beautifully for this. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back sides of it. And just continue to create and build my card here. Just to finish it off. I'm layering it on Blackberry Bliss, which I think is a stunning color behind all these colors. I just think it makes it pop so much. I went ahead, I have a piece of Bumblebee cardstock. I have another plaid from this set that I just layered on top of that strip of Bumblebee cardstock. And then I have another one of those beautiful leaves that have those little stitched lines in there. The thanks is from another stamp set that I have that I just think works perfectly on over the top of this leaf. And just off to the side here, I can place this like this. And there I just made a very simple but very cute fall card. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this today. I really hope that you give this technique a chance. I think you can create some gorgeous, beautiful cards with it, and really try this with some designer series paper that you have laying around. I will post these cards with this video. I also have some other cards that I made similarly, and let me take a chance to show you those a little bit. Instead of the herringbone technique, I just used these as strips. So I took these little 1/4 inch strips and basically just put them at an angle all the way across this little panel that's this background. And I think that that created a beautiful effect and look too. Okay. Then kind of along the same idea, I went ahead and put a piece of Bumblebee here back behind crossways, and I basically just built out those strips one right after another, lined up along this and along the top, and then that created a little bit of a fun background as well. And then this one, after I was cutting down a lot of those, I ended up with some little strips. And so I came up with this idea of, this was all one piece that I built my strips onto, and then I just took my paper trimmer and cut them in different strips, and you can see these smaller ones I layered up on some dimensionals, threw a little leaf on there, and created just kind of a little bit different look with that too. So it's kind of a little build on the herringbone technique with strips. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this today. Like I said, I hope you give it a try, and everybody stay safe and have a nice day.